You're connecting with medievalist.net, and we are back for the Medievalverse Roundtable for the 49th International Congress of Medieval Studies, and I'm delighted to have three wonderful guests. John France of the University of Swansea, Elizabeth Koza of Stony Brook University, and our medievalist.net correspondent, Danielle Trynoski from Los Angeles. So thank you all so much, and I hope you've been enjoying the Congress so far. And I guess my first question is, what's been your highlight?
I think my highlight has been a very high-powered discussion of chivalry today. Very high-powered, some very well-known people talking about it, and it stimulated quite an argument. So, I mean, that's the kind of thing that really focuses your mind and makes it worthwhile crossing the Atlantic and some of the terrible food you get on aeroplanes in order to get here. It really was very stimulating indeed.
Well, for me, it's been a 2-year in the making process, because last year at the Medieval Congress, I got accepted to go to graduate school, and that was on May 10th, which is today. And then today I won a facsimile from the book room, which was exciting.
Yes.
And then
Well done.
Penn University Press put me on their Twitter, so that was exciting.
Oh, yes.
Excellent.
And then I got to reunite with my undergraduate advisor here today, which was also great. So it's just been one continuous good thing at the Congress, so I'm curious to see what next year's May 10th brings.
Well, I had two major highlights. One was I presented my first conference paper, so that was definitely a highlight. And then the overall highlight for me was seeing papers from projects that are actively happening. Not just people talking about what they're going to do or what they've done and covering some small elements of it, but say, this is where we are, we've been on the ground, this is what's happening, and this is how it's starting to fit into a broader context. So I really enjoyed seeing things that were actively happening and getting some of the background and context behind them.
I noticed it's been a trend for a lot of the panels this year. Like, one of my advisors was presenting on a book she's still writing.
Right.
She was like, this is where I'm at right now. And it fit in with a lot of the other panels that were happening, so it was able to be put in broader context too. And I kind of hope they all end up in like an edited volume or something,
Right,
which
right.
would be nice.
Well, I
And
think
it seemed like they were going in that direction.
I think
so.
it's important to, say it's okay to talk about where you're at in your
Right.
project or in your research or in your process.
I agree.
And invite criticism and discuss before you've closed the book on it, so to speak.
Well, it's also, it brings, hopefully brings new ideas
Right.
and chances to work with other people, right? Like if you're starting a project, it's the time to, bring in like as many minds as you can. So
Right.
people that want to work on it. So not at the end.
Collaborate at the start and not
Yeah.
the revision stage.
Yeah, that's right. I think I just came back from a session I really enjoyed, which was on medieval mothers. So, and it kind of involved talking about pregnancy, Anne of Bohemia trying various, she was a boy from Richard II, and she was trying various kind of medicinal cures to get pregnant. So I found that was like really interesting how they kind of did that. And there was and a couple of other papers as well. And I always get delighted on papers like that about topics I don't know much about, and then I think I learn a bit, So so I really like that. What I ask, like, my kind of second question is basically about what kind of brings you here to Kalamazoo? Like what is it the papers? Is it the people? Like what made you say I'm going to come here this year?
Well, I came to the Congress for the first time last year, just to see what it was like in participate in medieval history and the dialogue that goes along with it.
Great. Well, like Danielle, last year was my first time at the Congress, and because of last year, I wanted to return again this year, but I was a little different in that I presented last year and not this year, because I'm currently trying to apply to PhD programs. It was really important to go and meet with all of the people I'm considering working with and just want to hear their papers and things like that. So this was more of a networking year for me rather than a paper presentation year. But it's also given me ideas on what I want to work on next or where I hope to go in the future. So it's just been helpful in that perspective. So this year's been more of attending panels and meeting people than working on a paper.
Like with networking, it's like the being able to have that face-to-face kind
Yeah.
of, like, because you email everybody, but this is probably the only chance, you get to
To
see.
meet them
yeah.
each year. And we have been emailing, but it's so nice to actually be able to meet them for coffee and catch up about their research and to see where they're trying to take it, which is, again, going off of what you said before.
Right. I like coming here because it's an opportunity to meet people, basically. Because, the number of medievalists in the world is not vast.
It's finite.
And there's a reasonable proportion of them here. And certainly a proportion of people that I work with over the net or through publishers. And this is an opportunity to meet them, to talk about ideas, and to go to particular occasions like the one on chivalry, which are exciting and interesting, but also to enjoy the fact that this is a very that you're not going to be crushed.
And it's not too overwhelming.
It's not too overwhelming.
Which is
That's right.
surprising because it's so large. As you said, this is
Yeah.
the event where they all congregate, and it's accessible. It's not overwhelming, and despite the large number of people, and despite sort of the star power, if you will, that it
Like
draws.
available and
Right.
at home. So
Well, if you compare it with, a comparable idea is the Medieval Academy of America.
And you were there
I
just
attended
there.
that just last
It's
month.
much more formal.
Much different atmosphere.
And I went there when I was a long time ago, and I felt quite intimidated by. Not really quite. I can't say that I was really intimidated because I'm a bloody-minded person, but you could feel. It's difficult to intervene in those circumstances. Whereas here, I think it's much easier. Everybody is much more relaxed, and also people say even some awful some. And I've always felt that was really what Kalamazoo was about, creating a learned atmosphere, but one which was kind of relaxed. Whereas many conferences are really quite. You get conferences. There's a place.
Speaking from the crusading specialist,
Yes, the Crusaders differ from one another. We have arguments. And obviously room for that, what you want to be interested in. And look for people who you want to meet. I think that's very important. And Kalamazoo so far, with this rather relaxed administration, is created a unique atmosphere. And providing they stick to that, I think they'll do very well indeed and continue to be very important.
it's also created an atmosphere, I think, that allows for people to want to come. I first came here as an undergraduate, and there weren't many opportunities for undergraduates to go to conferences. So coming to a place like this, even though it was so large in scope, it was nice that once I arrived, everything was very welcoming and understanding that it was a new experience. And I don't know, like you were saying, if that would have happened anywhere else really, except for here.